Good evening and welcome to our midweek Bible study here at Azalea City. Thanks to those who are here this evening, and I know we'll have a few more coming in, but also want to say thank you to those who are joining us on our live stream. We certainly are thankful for the opportunity to be able to gather in person or via internet, and so thanks to all those who make that happen. If you are tuned in to us and you're visiting with us, or if you're here tonight and you're visiting with us, we want to encourage you to pick up an announcement sheet, but also let you know we're thankful that you're here. Members, we also want to encourage you to do that as well, so that everyone will know the things that are going on. And of course, because of the shutdown and pandemic and such, there's not as much going on as usual. So all I have tonight are prayer requests. And so I do ask that you will remember these folks in your prayers. Those who are longtime members here at Azalea City will know the name Marion Barnett. Marion Barnett is one of the wisest people I've ever known. Also, one of the most meekest, salt of the earth, light-bearing people I've ever known. Well, on January 1st, we learned that Sister Marion went on to her reward. And good for her, you know. But I am sorry for Carol Headley, who is one of her nieces, and certainly want to continue to remember Carol and their family in your prayers. But thankful to be able to know Marion Barnett. Brother Larry Hancock had his chemo treatment yesterday, and Brother Larry was on our elders call tonight and sounded great. And so we want to continue to pray that these treatments that he's taking go very well and they do what they're supposed to. His next one is scheduled for January the 26th. Sister Irene King, I learned just now that she's going to be having gallbladder surgery, and that is next Wednesday, and that will be at Providence Hospital. So we want to remember Sister Irene in our prayers. That makes me also think of Grady. We want to continue to remember Grady in our prayers because Grady had his gallbladder removed and then also had that spot on his adrenal gland removed. And so Grady's still recovering, so please pray for Sister Irene as well. Then also Kent Wilkerson and his brother Randy and Sister Sherry, and especially their mom. She had a major stroke earlier this week, and talking with Kent tonight, there are things that maybe it's not good, but things aren't quite the way they were when they first thought it happened, but we want to remember her and want to remember Kent and their family in our prayers. Then also on a very sad note, Sister Glenda Warren lost her mother today. And we know that Sister Glenda's mother has been on our prayer list and been in the hospital and such. And so we want to remember Glenda and her family at this time. And then also he's here tonight, but some time ago, Brother Ron Kincaid stepped wrong coming down off an incline and tore his meniscus and may have hurt his ankle some too, but anyhow, his knee surgery went well. He's glad to see him here tonight. He's got to be real careful so y'all don't go pushing on him or anything, but I appreciate Brother Ron very much. Any announcements, Justin, or do you have any announcements? Area-wide that was scheduled has been postponed because Scenic Hills had COVID, and so again, just not a lot of things going on. Kids did. I know some children are doing virtual back, and then Mobile Christian and maybe some other schools got started back today, but I want to continue to remember them and continue to stay safe and do what we can to stay safe. But church, I love you, appreciate you. We're going to enter our devotional period now as Brother Danny Irwin's going to lead us in our singing. Justin will be extending the invitation tonight and this month every Wednesday night. And then at the close of our devotional period, before we go to our classes, Brother Jeff May will lead us in our prayer. Now, if you will, join in with Brother Danny, please.
All right. Thank you. Hide me, O my Savior, hide me in thy holy place, resting there beneath thy glory. Oh, let me see thy face. Hide me, hide me, oh blessed Savior, hide me, oh Savior, keep thou me safely, O Lord, with thee. Hide me with my heart in breaking, with its weight of woe. When did I seek the comfort, now canst alone bestow. Hide me, O blessed Savior, hide me, O Savior, keep me safely, O Lord, with thee.
Good evening. I don't know, maybe my mic works, maybe it doesn't, but it won't matter. My voice will still be as weak as it was in 2020. If you'd like to turn to Isaiah chapter 40, I'd like to read verses 28 through 31. Isaiah chapter 40, verses 28 through 31. When I got to thinking about this afternoon, I thought there might not be a better set of verses to read to begin 2021. Starting in verse 28, it says, Have you not known, have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He does not faint or grow weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the faint, and to him who has no might he increases strength. Even you shall faint and be weary, and exhausted. But they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. God's people were weary. I believe we could say God's people are weary. Here in Isaiah chapter 40, the Israelites have found themselves exiled into Babylon. And they were tired. And they were exhausted. And they weren't resting necessarily in God's promises. They were discouraged and overwhelmed. A sad America. But they were exiled in Babylon thinking they had no purpose, thinking God had no plan. But yet God still had a plan. God still had a purpose. Discouragement breeds doubt, doesn't it? If I become discouraged at something, I think I'll never be able to do it. Riley got a hoverboard for Christmas, and she rides that hoverboard like it's going out of style. The other day, she stepped on or got on her bicycle, which she has not ridden or rode in some time. Well, because of that, she kind of tilted to the side and fell and decided to kiss the flower pot with the right side of her cheek. She got a bruise and a little gash from it. Well, what does a kid do? Gets right back up and tries again. What do we do? And I hadn't ridden that bike in several years. I just can't ride a bike anymore. I become discouraged. And discouragement breeds doubt. I can't do that anymore. Israelites were saying, can God really be truthful? Can He really hold on to His promises? Is He going to come through for us in this situation? They were tempted to give up. Maybe like us, tempted to give up when times get tough. But if we look at verse 28, Isaiah says, have you not known, have you not heard, the Lord is the everlasting God. God is everlasting. Verse 29 shows us that God is able. He gives power to the faint. And to him who has no might, he increases strength. How in the world am I ever going to get through this trial? God gives us his strength. We will grow tired. We will grow weary. Even youth, even the young men, even the ones that were the most fit, even the ones that are not supposed to grow tired, even the ones that are in the best shape, grow tired and grow weary. I'm 33 years old. I'll be 34 in 2021. I bet you didn't see that coming, did you? I get more tired than I used to, and that's just not right. It's just weird, isn't it? Even young men, even the ones that are in tip-top shape, even the greatest athletes in the world grow tired and weary. Verse 31 is very important. But they who wait, they who are patient, they who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall regain that strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run. Who wants to go run right now? Raise your hand. Shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. See, 2021, if we truly elevate ourselves, I believe this, we'll find that our strength will be renewed. I find that we're going to have the vision and the power of eagles. We'll have wings like eagles. We'll be able to soar like eagles. We'll be able to see like eagles. And maybe not see down upon earth, but maybe see the hope that's laid up for us in heaven. We'll have the energy and endurance that we need to run this Christian race. 2 Peter chapter 1, verses 3 and 4 says this: His divine power has granted to us all things that pertain to life and godliness, through the knowledge of Him who called us to His own glory and excellence, by which He has granted to us His precious and very great promises, so that through them you may become partakers of the divine nature, having escaped from the corruption that is in the world because of sinful desire. Boy, we live in a corrupt world. But if we believe and rest in God's promises, they're the same promises that came true for the Israelites. And they're the same promises that will come true for us. Let's elevate our thinking. Let's elevate our mindset. Let's elevate our energy and our enthusiasm about 2021. Because even though we might be discouraged, even though we might think from time to time, maybe God's not going to come through on His promises. Boy, that's when He shows up, because He always does. So if you are running your race and you're starting to slow down, if you're starting to grow weary, you're starting to doubt and to give up, please renew your confidence. If you haven't taken part in the Lord's church, as Megan closed out 2020 for us doing, and as Madeline opened 2021 doing, man, join God's church. Allow Jesus, or contact the blood of Jesus through the waters of baptism, because it'll be the greatest decision that you ever make. But maybe tonight again, you're one that has contacted the blood of Jesus Christ, but it's just become too difficult. 2020 was tough. 2020 brought a lot of discouragement. 2021 is maybe not starting off so well. Renew your confidence in God. Get back up off the mat. Let's continue to run the race with endurance. Fixing our eyes to Jesus, looking forward to the hope that we have in heaven, because there is promised a much better life ahead. If you have any need tonight, please come forward as we stand and sing together.
When we walk with the Lord in the light of His word, what glory shines on our way. While we do His will, He abides with us still, and with all who will trust and obey. Trust
Let's pray together. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for all the many wonderful blessings you've brought with it. Lord, thank you for this time we've had to spend together, to study your word, and to sing praises to your name. We're thankful for our elders, our deacons, and our ministry team, Lord. We're thankful for the ways that they work together to impart your word to our church, and the fact that we can work together and be in unison in each and everything that we do. Lord, in the name of unity, help us to come together as a country. Help us to pray for our leaders. Whether we look at things the same way they do or not, help us to pray for them to see you as the supreme authority, to see you as the supreme guidance, and to see you in your principles are what our country was truly founded upon. Be with us as we go through this new year. Help us to see opportunities to serve. Help us to see opportunities to be better soldiers for you. Be with us and go with us and protect us. Bring us back at the next appointed time. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Hey, Mark. Oh, wow, that is good. Great. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started tonight. It was a few weeks ago when we last left off in our class on conversations, Christ-like conversations, but the reason that is because the last couple weeks we, of course, had our program together talking about Jesus, talking about new. And this year, certainly one of the things that we really want to elevate, if you will, is our evangelism. And I know we started last year, and we've been having those kinds of classes going on even in the back on Sundays. But one thing the church has to be is evangelistic. And listen, when I say should be, no, it has to be, right? We have to be. That is the mission. So what Jesus said in Matthew 28, go into all the world, make disciples, baptize, and teach. It's what he said in Acts 1 when he told them to be witnesses in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. We must be evangelistic. And that's not just a handful of people. It has to be all of us. One thing the devil did, unfortunately, a very good job of, I believe, is he hurt some of the evangelism. Through the efforts of maybe using the virus and using shutdowns and all that, I think we went into a whole different role. Well, even though we are still in a lot of those very similar states, that doesn't mean evangelism gets shut down. We've got to do a very effective job. One thing I mentioned to you, we announced it, but I wanted to mention again, we've talked very effectively in here about encountering someone and what do we say to them, what do we do, what do we give them, and we now have cards, and they are out here in the foyer. If you want to pick up a bundle or two of those cards, you can give it to them, and it has our number on it, it has our address on it, it has our email address, it has time of worship. Now the time of worship is non-COVID times, but you can just go ahead and say, hey, we're at 10 instead of 10:30 or whatever. And so those are things that we can do, and now we have something. And so we're trying to make it where it's not so hard to have these conversations. But along the way in this class, we've tried to talk about those that we encounter. And so tonight I want to talk about a conversation that has taken place between Jesus Christ and Peter. So if you will, join me in Luke chapter 5. Luke chapter 5. Let's read together verses 1 through 11, please. Somebody want to read? Okay, I don't have the microphone tonight, so if you can just, that picks up back there. I just don't know how well.
One day, as Jesus was preaching on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, great crowds pressed in on him to listen to the word of God. He noticed two empty boats at the water's edge where the fishermen had left them and were washing their nets. Stepping into one of the boats, Jesus asked Simon, its owner, to push it out into the water. So he sat in the boat and taught the crowds from there. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, now go out where it is deeper and let your nets down to catch some fish. Master, Simon replied, we worked hard all last night and didn't catch a thing. But if you say so, I'll let the nets down again. And this time their nets were so full of fish they began to tear. A shout for help brought their partners in the other boat, and soon both boats were filled with fish and on the verge of sinking. When Simon Peter realized what had happened, he fell to his knees before Jesus and said, "O Lord, please leave me. I'm such a sinful man." For he was awestruck by the number of fish they had caught, as were the others with him. His partners, James and John, the sons of Zebedee, were also amazed. Jesus replied to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on you'll be fishing for people." And as soon as they landed, they left everything and followed Jesus.
Thank you, Jeff. Madeline and I watched a video recently, and it's a cartoon, and it was entitled Baptized. We've watched several of them, and one thing I can remember, I think it was in the Baptized one, this story is reenacted. And the way they did it, of course, is a cartoon, and so it's a lot easier to draw, but I never pictured that many fish. I've always pictured a lot of fish, but it was really just a very powerful moment, and it brought this story back to life for me. And it's amazing how sometimes we can see it in the things that we do not expect to see it in. But as we go into this story, it's a remarkable story. There's a lot of great depth in it. Of course, there's a conversation had between Peter and Jesus, Simon and Jesus here. But I want you to remember these four things. And we're going to break this down in just a moment, but keep this in mind. This has been our objectives the whole time, and I just wanted to remind you of it. We want to have a deeper understanding of how Jesus shared the gospel in specific situations. We want to develop better perception of needs of people and how to help them. We want to imitate Jesus by practicing gospel ministry like him. And we want to cultivate a more robust, Christ-like prayer life for gospel ministry. Now, with that being said, in this conversation, what do we know before the conversion of the following of Jesus? What does this text specifically reveal or imply to us about Peter? What are some things that we know about Peter through this text?
He worked hard.
He is a hard worker. That's on my list too. How do we know he's a hard worker?
He stayed up all night.
He fished all night. And Bill, you probably fished all night before, but you were playing hard at that time, right? I mean, you weren't doing it for a living, in other words. You were doing it for fun, and that's what I mean by that. It was all night. I had about 14 years. Okay, there you go. And so, if somebody's going to fish all night now, it's usually going to be around the people we know for fun, right? It's going to be for play, for hobby, what have you. But why was Peter doing it? It was his job.
Thankfully, we still got people that do that.
We absolutely do, but we absolutely do have fishermen that do that. And when I mean that, please understand, I'm not going to say amen and a women and all that, okay? When I say fishermen, you understand I'm being neutral. Yeah. But the reality is, Peter was working. So we learned two things about that. He was a fisherman, and he was a hard worker.
He was dedicated and obedient.
Dedicated and obedient. That's right. He's dedicated because he's done all this fishing, and he's dedicated to his craft, but he's obedient because he really doesn't think it's going to work. But he did what he said. That's very good.
Because we know he's a sinful man, because he said that, but the opposite of that makes me believe he was not a spiritual person, maybe. It doesn't say that.
I would not disagree with you. Peter was a sinner. He's cognitive of his sin, for sure. Which means there's been some probably teaching along the way. But I'm guessing the way this conversation happens and the way Jesus uses Peter, that he did a lot more fishing than he did a lot more temple going. And I just think that's remarkable about Jesus. And we're going to get more into that. Very good. Anything else?
He seemed very respectful. I mean, he called Jesus master.
Yeah, I had that on. He was perceptive of Jesus' nature. You know, whether he knew Jesus or not, he was very reverent to him, respectful to him. And I thought that says a lot about his character, I believe, certainly. Verge?
Simple, he owned a boat, and Jesus asked him to use it, and he let Jesus use it.
Very trusting type person. And you know,
It's his way of giving, too.
Yeah, giving. It wasn't like he said, do you know what you're doing? You know, and I mean, he allowed... Again, I don't know how much interaction between Jesus and Peter there had been. I don't know if Jesus... I mean, again, those are things I'd love to see some foresight into. I don't know if Jesus had kind of brushed into him on purpose a couple times or what have you, or maybe Jesus knows all things. He knew what he was thinking. But I think it says something, again, of what he saw in Peter, that Peter was willing to do that.
Kind of going back to what George said about respect, he commanded some influence with his fellow fishermen.
Sure.
Because I'm telling you, I don't care how much you like to fish, ask Bill, ask Dad, ask Bub, whoever. If you fish all night or for any extended period of time, enough is enough.
Yeah.
But he talked to his guys, hey, this guy said we need to go back out there. Let's try it one more time.
No doubt. He had leadership abilities. I think that speaks to that. Because like you say, he was able to get people to follow him. And I'm sure that's what Jesus saw in him. And I think, go ahead, Brandy.
Also say he's not a corner cutter. If you've been fishing all night, you might want to wash your nets later.
Yeah.
But he didn't. It's like you come back in, and it doesn't matter how tired you are.
That's right.
We're washing these nets, make this equipment, regardless of what we feel.
Great point. I think that goes back to hard working, dedicated. Going to Jeff's point back, you know, he even when the haul came in, he was able to convince James and John, hey, you guys, I need you to help me. And they were willing to do that. So,
He called,
excuse me.
he called for help, but we a lot of times hesitate.
Excuse me. Yeah, he did not want. He recognized. Where I'm trying to go with this is the greed could be, man, I see all this and I don't want anybody near it. But he recognized, oh no, I need some help, and I'm sure he was willing to share if those guys were willing to help. Very good. Anything else? It's pretty much what all I have on my list. So one thing that I really wanted to kind of, I see, and I think we've said this, I believe Peter had some insecurity about him. And the reason that is sometimes, this is now just me reading people, okay? Sometimes when you have insecurity, you try to overcompensate it with a false confidence. And now I know I said from this story, but looking into Peter's life, I think he illustrates that. I'm going to defend you till the end, but what happened? He went and hid. And so maybe it was some insecurity about himself, but he tried to overcompensate for that. Now, in this story, I don't know that we see that a whole lot, but it was just something that came to my mind as we go through this. So, talking about this now, I believe Peter probably felt, and this may come to some of his insecurity that he had, but maybe he felt a little bit unworthy. He obviously pointed out he was a sinner. Now, excuse me, he did not see, I got strangled, I do not have, I'm hesitant to cough because when I had it, I coughed. Excuse me, I just need to get it out real quick. I've been fighting it the whole time. That's the only time I've coughed in months. Understanding that he here probably felt unworthy because he was a sinner. Well, the reason they're doing that is because I was out to eat with him the night before I found out I had COVID and I had this little cough going on. Bubba likes to say it was a really loud cough, but it was just a little tickle thing. And I'm like, guys, I'm okay. Well, needless to say, I tested positive the next day. Oh boy. But he was a sinner. Yeah. He was a sinner, but I don't believe that Peter, when he realized that all these fish were there, I don't believe that's what caused him to bow down. I believe it was he realized how special this man was. Yeah. And how small he was.
Well, I just heard he was teaching when he was sitting, Jesus used his boat, so reliable.
Right.
Washing the net.
Sure. That's right.
That's exactly the same thing as saying we heard what Jesus just presented.
Absolutely. And so with that being said, I want us to think about conversations we may have with people that feel the same way. There are people that we will encounter that feel unworthy. I mean, let's face it. How many of us are worthy? None. And so we thank God for His amazing grace. We thank God that through faith, through grace, we are saved. Through obedience to the gospel. Yes.
I was just thinking about how long it took me to really realize how much God loved me. That's not a, when you come out of the water, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah, I do agree. I think that we have to make sure
It takes time.
we keep looking for that. We keep feeding that. And I still don't know if we fully comprehend that, right? I agree with you. I think we've had some time now since our conversion. All of us, for the most part, we've had some time to really reflect on, wow, God. But it's certainly something that takes time to realize. I agree.
The devil uses our past
Sure.
to get in between that.
Yeah.
And it just took me a while to really just come to terms. And like you said, I'm still not there. But
Yeah. No, I agree.
you get to a point where it's, oh my goodness, as bad, as unworthy as I am.
Right. And I think back to the time Peter spoke up and spoke wrong. But, when he was walking on water, Matthew 14, and he takes his eyes off, Jesus didn't hold him under the water, even though he could have revived him, he could have saved him, he could have brought him back to life. No, he reached out immediately. And so it reminds me, even though there was some scolding or what have you that went on, it reminds me even on this occasion, I think Peter always was reminded, he's not holding this against me. He's not holding my past against me. I've made a lot of mistakes. I'm a sinful man, Jesus. Before that, had he just let out a line of expletives? I don't know. I watched a show on Netflix. I had to turn it off in the first season because unlike not Disney, but Discovery or something, if you watch a show, they bleep a lot of that, right? Netflix, they do not. But I was watching this show about fishing. These guys are fishing for tuna. Very hard fishing and all that, and they let out a lot of expletives. I would guess that things haven't changed a whole lot in those years. I think Peter was probably discouraged and probably aggravated, and maybe he realized that. Again, I don't know. I don't want to read too much into it, but he had, I don't think this is going to work. I fished all night. I'm tired. I'm irritated. All this has happened. Jesus, forgive me. And Jesus didn't hold it against him.
You can bet if he was a fisherman,
Yeah. Well,
he was that way.
and he fished all night.
Well, it wouldn't matter that either. If he was a fisherman, he was that way. So,
Yeah.
so
Agree. I agree with you. And I just think even in this moment.
And I'm talking about commercial people.
Sure.
I'm talking about these.
Right. No, agree.
I'm
Yeah.
talking about commercial people.
Right. I fish with Bubba too. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Oh, but no, I agree, Danny. I wholeheartedly agree. So I say all that to say, think of the people we're going to encounter that do not feel worthy, right? So what are some of the reasons that they may feel unworthy today?
Well, first of all, I think more than half of the people that we encounter feel that way.
Agreed.
I think there'll be a lot of people, even if they're masking it, right?
Yeah.
With arrogance or
Right. No, I agree.
defensive posture.
Overcompensation, maybe like Peter was doing, like you say, defensive posture. Sister Nash just went ahead and went straight to the point. She said because of their sins, and I agree with that. Now let's break down under that umbrella, David.
I'm afraid that at times it may be because of Christians they encounter who elevate themselves maybe higher than they should or portray themselves to be a certain way.
Sure.
And someone looking at that might say, well, I can never be like that person.
Sure.
I think we've got to be careful.
What do we know about Peter's lineage? Where did he come from? Nationality? Was he a Gentile? He was a Jew. Okay? So we also know that Peter later on didn't want to go to the Gentiles. God even had to divinely show him, right? So in that, maybe Peter had met the Nicodemuses of the world. I don't know. I'm just throwing, because we talked about Nicodemus. And he thought, I'll never be that guy. I'll never be able to reach that status.
You know what? Some people, it's just reverse of what you're saying right here. That some people say, well, I'm not much of a sinner.
Well, yeah.
You know, I'm not much of a sinner.
Yeah.
That's a posture too.
That is. It's an overcompensation there. But yeah, David, I agree with you. I think that some might think, they might look and say, even maybe they haven't encountered somebody that's on their high horse, so to speak, but maybe they've encountered somebody and they think they've got it all together. Maybe they've seen us out and about, and I've had people say that to me, oh, your family's got it all together. Well, let me tell you about my family. You know, my family doesn't have it all together. Now, I like to think that my immediate family, we're, holding our head above water. But there are weak moments. There are tough times. There are times, you just aren't always at your peak performance. But I do think that sometimes people look at that and they think, I can't be that. To where here, Peter may have felt that way. But Jesus is telling him, no, I'm coming to you. And it really looks like first, right? Anybody else?
Don't you think, too, is that our methods, past methods of evangelism, have created this aura?
Mm-hmm. I do.
This false representation of who we are.
Right.
And as a result, it paints us, maybe rightly so, as overcritical of people.
Sure.
As opposed to bringing them, talking about Jesus.
Right.
As opposed to talking about their sins or 5 steps or, what you're doing wrong and how to avoid hell.
Yeah.
If we share compassion with people and share Jesus with them, then that would help us to kind of break that cycle. Yeah.
When I first discussed the theme with George and then with the elders, I knew January would be about Jesus. Because we have to elevate Jesus. We have to put him on the throne where he's at. He's got to be the most important. And we're going to keep talking about that. But where I'm going with that is this. At the end of the day, he's the highest. And at the end of the day, he's all that people need to know. And I do think we failed that in a lot of ways. But I always go back to the Ethiopian eunuch. If you ever want to know evangelism 101, what did Philip teach him? Jesus. He began in Isaiah 53. Why did he begin in Isaiah 53? Because that's what he was reading. I think, in other words, you meet people wherever they are and you bring the subject to Jesus. He didn't begin in Isaiah 53 because that's the place we should all begin, even though it wouldn't be a bad one. He began there because that's what he was reading. And from that point forward, he taught Jesus. Now, along the way, what makes common sense? If you teach Jesus, you're going to teach what? Baptism. You're going to teach salvation. Grace, mercy, love, compassion. But it all comes under the umbrella of Jesus Christ. He didn't teach him hermeneutics. He didn't teach him the Pentateuch. He taught him Jesus. And I believe that's where we have to be today. Jesus came to Peter and he didn't ask him if he knew the Septuagint, did he? What did he ask him to do? Cast your nets into the deep. Because now I'm going to start working on your faith. Brandy?
It's really not about who you're talking to. And it's not even about us.
Right.
It's all about Jesus. Jesus
100%.
didn't tell them about himself. He told them about, he didn't tell Peter about Peter. He told Peter, he wanted to show Peter who he was.
That's right. That's exactly right. And he wanted to show him what mission he had. Because ultimately he's calling Peter and the rest because he's got a mission for them. Just like us. David?
Something I'm learning from Bill's class, and I talk about having a story to tell, and it has a whole lot of conversations maybe, but I thought that it had a lot since one of the lessons, especially if somebody is not feeling worthy, and this show my lack of Bible knowledge, but the parable about the master who hired the workers.
Absolutely.
And
Hired them all at different times, didn't he?
different times, paid in the same way. I mean, it fully illustrates God's grace. I don't care when you come.
That's right.
And
That's
the
right.
gift is the same.
Just get in. Just get hired, right?
It's a simple story, but since Bill talked about telling stories, I've often thought about,
Sure.
gosh, I can tell that story.
That's right.
I have to learn which chapter and verses. We have to learn.
No, you don't have to learn it. You did a very effective job. You pointed me right to it. I knew exactly what you're talking about. And with that mindset, though, remember, there were people that were upset about it. The ones that got hired early in the morning, the same way. We can't be upset either, though, is the whole point. But I've not seen that. I don't know that I've ever seen, somebody 80 years old obeys the gospel. I've never seen somebody say, well, 80 years, they wasted their life. I've not seen it, and it's a good thing if it has. We're excited.
But there are probably those who feel that way, otherwise that parable may not have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I think he was daggering the Pharisees right between the eyes through a lot of that. But yeah, I agree. Yeah, and we can be pharisaical if we're not careful.
The ultimate story is people of the cross.
Absolutely. And hey, he got in, didn't he? You talk about getting hired at the last minute.
Right. Back to George's point about how we kind of created some of this ourselves.
Right.
God is the judge in that payoff.
Absolutely. We got to get out of that judgment seat.
God is in the job. It's just, it's
That's
just
right.
like you when you went to Mobile Christian Gunsmoke.
No doubt.
Trying to, like George said, do God's job.
No doubt. I was going to mow them down in the streets, brother.
That's all God's job. You just got to plant and water.
You helped me with that. As a young minister, you've helped me with that, and I've used that thousands of times probably since then.
Randy's point is huge. And I'm not discounting the business cards or church business.
No, I agree. I just did that so that we could have something.
It's a tool.
Yeah, sure.
But we've got to have a mindset, and don't get me wrong, I'd like to have everybody here to say the city, because this is the place.
Right.
It's about Jesus.
Right.
It's not about...
It's about planting and watering.
It's about Jesus Christ.
That is an excellent point. And
Randy,
it's a cup of cold water in His name. It's breakfast in His name. So he knows what I'm talking about there.
It's crazy though, is that it almost feels like a new concept that we're talking about.
It's 2,000 years old.
Well, no, I mean, just the idea of our approach, right?
Yeah.
Right, because...
this fastball for so long.
Right. Right.
Well, you think about this. Logistically, how much sense does it make that our evangelism is all about bringing people to church? Right? That means the preacher's going to stand up there and deliver a sermon every Sunday. If it's not tailored towards those 3 people that might be here, we bring them Jesus, they're going to accept the gospel, they're going to get baptized, and guess what? Then they're a member of the Lord's church.
Sunday sermons are more for the saved. Just about. What I'm saying is the majority of people here are saved.
It's the Lord's church.
Right.
I've been added to the church.
Right.
Now, of course, we should invite our friends and neighbors and all that. But it just sounds funny that we're grasping a hold of this concept of changing our methodology to saying, let's get out of the invite to church business and let's get into the sharing Jesus business.
Some of y'all may have heard this. I just recently heard it, but I've studied a lot about it. And I use it from identity standpoint, but really what it comes from is this. You either have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. What is a fixed mindset? A fixed mindset is a child who has made straight A's their whole life. Okay? Everything's great, whatever. They go to college, take that first class. They don't make a straight A in it. So what do? They drop it more than likely. They change their major. They do something. Why? Because the fixed mindset says that the first sign of anything rocks the boat, the first time anything, I don't like it, I got to get away from it, I got to step away. What does a growth mindset say? I'm going to figure out a way. I'm going to find a way to do it.
On that note, I agree with George. It feels like a new concept, not introducing people to Azalea City with Jesus, but we're really evangelizing the way that we should, teaching them Jesus. When they leave here, they need to be as strong wherever they go as they would have been here.
Right.
So it can't be Azalea City or Cherry Sermons or lovable people.
Right.
Only. It's got everybody can stay here. They move for various reasons.
That's right.
If we've done our job properly,
That's right.
they leave here with Jesus and they find a home in God's church wherever they go.
That's right. That's right.
I've heard somewhere that it was said that Church of Christ thinks that nobody's going to heaven except members of the Church of Christ.
Listen, and that's,
We've done that ourselves.
yeah. We have, and I'm not Jesus Christ. Nor y'all.
None of us are the
That's,
judge.
that's why we have to fight that judging mentality,
Yeah.
okay? On David's point too, and this.
Don't forget my fixed and growth. I'm coming back to that.
Right. But, and this is Bill's political statement.
Sure. Okay.
So, my dear brother Jimmy, he posted a thing today and it was like, maybe instead of praying for peace, we need to pray for truth, right? And it just got me to thinking, think about how difficult, almost impossible, peace is without truth, okay?
Jesus brought truth and it caused a war.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, though, in our political climate and in our earthly environment, that is so difficult.
Yeah.
Look at where we are. We've got truth, and that truth should give us that peace.
That's exactly right. Let me tell you this. Let me say this. The only way we're going to truly find peace is through the truth of Jesus Christ. He is the peace that passes all understanding. I was talking with my buddy Virgil just a little bit ago. And of course, when we got together, elders, Justin, myself, that was the subject, because it was fresh, those things were happening. And I made the statement that I had to purge myself. And some of y'all know I was really hot and heavy in it. When the Supreme Court didn't hear him, I said, okay, I've got to get away from this. It's consumed too much of me. And so I found some alone time with God, and I said, you are the supreme. I think at that time I'd preached a sermon on Him being sovereign, meaning He is the only one, okay? He is the only one. And so I right now, I'm not Twittering, I'm not whatever that's called, or whatever you say the right word is. I'm not doing a lot of that and all. I'm not going on Facebook and posting. Please don't get offended if I'm not posting sweet, loving, encouraging. I've got to purge myself from that a little bit. And so with that said, my bubble's okay. My bubble's okay because God's in my bubble right now. I was talking about that, and Virgil said, the best thing to happen to me, we were talking about news stations, Newsmax versus all these and all. He said, I used to get up every morning. And you mind me saying, you don't mind me saying this to you. This is an elder in the church now, and I appreciate it. He said, I used to get up every morning and turn the news on. He said, some time ago, and he had his Bible's about that thick, by the way. He had his Bible. He said, some time ago, I made the decision to get up every morning and turn this on. He said, and it's made all the difference. And I would encourage a lot of us to do that. A lot of us. Not a lot, all of us, right? Fixed and growth. The little kid, trouble. You see it already, right? The fixed mindset, and it starts in elderships, folks, and I'm telling you, we don't have fixed-minded elders. I appreciate them for that. But the church struggles in a lot of ways because of fixed mindsets. If it becomes anything that we haven't done for 70 years,
Slippery slope.
You love that saying, don't you? Slippery slope.
I do not.
And so what do we do? Oh, no. I got to drop it. I got to get away from it. But growth mindsets. Is it okay biblically? Because that's the truth. Yeah, it's okay biblically. Well, then let's try it. That's where we've got to get spiritually. We've got to have a growth mentality.
And that growth mentality means that you're going to learn from the mistakes you made.
Absolutely.
So you learn to do it.
Absolutely. But if somebody doesn't call me brother, maybe, again, they call me pastor, they call me whatever. Again, I'm not saying change. But why am I going to call them down right then and there? Can I just say that?
Bridge or wall.
Bridge or wall. There's been a time now I've been, oh, no. Later on, though, I'll probably have that conversation with them.
What about reverend?
Draw it back to God. I'm thankful. By the way, I've been called it, have I not? I've been written letters and invitations that have Reverend Terry Cagle on it. Some people know what I'm talking about. Probably on live stream. My point behind it is I am not answering to that title, and I'm not going to be that. I'm Terry. When I've been interviewed, or whatever, they say, "What do you want to be referred to?" And they're referring to that. I said, "How about Terry?" That is my name, or Terrell even.
But people, they say these things, but they don't really, they don't mean any offense.
Right.
That's the opposite most of the time.
Absolutely. Oh, you're right. Oh no, they're doing it as a term of endearment or a term of respect. Right. No, and I'm just using that as just a very tiny example. My point of it is exactly what Bill said. Am I going to build a wall right there? Am I going to build a bridge? Fixed mindsets versus growth mindsets. What do we want to be, church? Do we want to be do you think they said some wrong things at the church at Corinth? Do you think they said wrong things? The church of Ephesus, they left their first love. Now, obviously, they had to come. But I'm just saying, mistakes are going to be made. But if we have the mindset that we're not allowing sin in here, then we got to get out of the evangelism business. Scott?
I think, personally, going over what we've been doing the last month or so with Bill's class, is that I want to be, I want to do what God wants me to do. I want to be led and all that. But personally, I'm talking about Scott. I talk to a lot of people about anything and everything. Of course, now with what's going on, probably too much of that. But I'm thinking that, and people that know me know that, I go to church, I'm a Christian. Mm-hmm. But I think in my general, everyday talking, I don't bring up spiritual things. And so, with this new Elevate, personally, I think that what I would make a big difference is if someone's saying they're having a bad day, why don't I say, instead of saying, "Oh, I'm sorry you're having a bad day, tell me about your mother," why don't I stop right there and say, "Would you like me to pray for you?"
Love it. I think that's a great,
it's
a great equalizer,
I got
diffuser.
I got the brain. We're in a world that is our temporal place.
Absolutely, it's temporal.
And so we're supposed to be thinking above and not below. And so in my everyday world, I should be bringing, in my conversations, I should be, every chance I get, if I'm supposedly loving God with all my heart, all my soul, mm-hmm. then it should be as commonplace as my normal talk.
If He's where He is in our life, Scott, you're right.
And so personally, I'm getting on myself saying,
I appreciate that. I appreciate the self-evaluation. I think we all need that.
Because, see, the problem I think we have, and I've walked this earth quite along on both sides of the street, is that we don't know how to approach it. We have good intentions.
Right.
But if it becomes, if you're talking to me and you say anything where I can say, well, I need to pray for you, or that reminds me of the spiritual thing I read or listened to, I got to bring it on spiritual things, but I got to do it in such a way that I'm not overly. It needs to become just natural.
So I like this point. You talk about wall or bridge. I'm going to pray for you. You don't even have to ask me.
That builds a bridge.
But if you say, well, if you were going to church, you wouldn't have to.
Yeah,
that's a wall.
I know. And so I love what Scott's saying.
Yeah. Can I say this? And I think I can, and we all get it. Scott, the more we rely on God's Spirit to direct our steps, I don't think we have to worry about what we're going to say. I believe it's going to come out.
And the thing is, if we're just sharing a story, you can share a story without it being condemning.
Absolutely.
You're just sharing a story.
That's right. Randy?
You also can't share something you haven't read yourself.
Very true.
So,
Very
if
true.
you want to have something to talk about, then you've got to be in the Word or reading
Right.
the book or listening to a podcast to talk about it.
That's right. The more spiritual things we put in our lives, the more spiritual stuff's going to come out.
Absolutely.
And that's why I think it's important. I know 7:32, really? All right, I'm just going to end right there. Well, I had 7 things. Even though I could have read them quickly, I know we got babies and all. But hey, guys, I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. It's going to be a great year. And thank you for allowing us to dive into this like a Bible class should be. See you later.